Good afternoon, class. Unfortunately, I can't make it in today, and also apologies if the audio or visual isn't up to standard. I've actually got to record this off a phone, but hopefully it's all okay. Regardless, my name's Rory, and today myself, Rowan and Jassim will be discussing Northern Territory intervention. Firstly, before I get started on that, I'd just like to start our presentation by making an acknowledgement of country. So we respectfully acknowledge the elders and custodians of the Whadjuk Noongar Nation, past and present, their descendants and kin. So firstly, what exactly is the Northern Territory intervention? From 2001 onwards, numerous reports and a great deal of media coverage revealed increasing levels of disease in Aboriginal communities. Such disease was linked to poor accommodation, poor health, rising unemployment and undereducation. All of these factors in turn led to an increase in child abuse, drug abuse and violence towards themselves and others. All reporters agreed that the situation in remote communities required urgent strategies to deal with the appalling rate of child abuse and community dysfunction. So on the 21st of June 2007, an intervention was established called the Northern Territory Emergency Response, which is now better known as the Northern Territory Intervention. It included a 5-year control of communities by government through managers, police and army. There was compulsory health checks for children, the separating of 50% of Centrelink payments, just to make sure payments were going towards food and necessities. Also, Centrelink payments may have been suspended depending on whether the child was attending class regularly, and also a 6-month ban on pornography and alcohol. So the response was brutal, as the majority of innocent and well-meaning parents were treated the same as the careless and even criminal. So this is an example of how the minority's behaviour can influence the majority. Take for an example, if the curtain tab was just to randomly close after a few people have just got too intoxicated and couldn't handle the beers and got a bit rowdy. If the tab just closed, how would you feel? I mean, I personally would be quite annoyed if that was to happen. But we can sort of imagine how the majority of the Aboriginal community may have felt after this blatant discrimination. Also, the timing of the intervention was rather controversial, as John Howard and the Coalition were facing defeat after 4 terms in office. Just 6 months out from an election, and at a time when the polls were moving against him, the decision for the intervention made him a man of moral action. Like terrorism, domestic violence created a national emergency, which is electorally good for the Prime Minister. Pat Turner, the former top Indigenous public servant, alleged that the government is using sexual abuse as the Trojan horse to resume control of our lands. Once the Aboriginals heard of the army coming into the community, many families reportedly fled, fearing the children would be taken. I think it's very hard to bring the army into community and have the community not feel intimidated. Also, as you've already learnt, Aboriginal people have an extremely close relationship with land. So to be reduced to leave their community in fear of having the child taken from them must have been extremely stressful on the Aboriginal families. So now I'll be passing on to Rowan, who will be discussing the Little Children and Sacred Report, which looks in more detail at the protection of Aboriginal children from child abuse.